All right, welcome to Jody and Court's video podcast, episode 2. Today we're going to be posing some what we're calling quarantine questions, talking from our houses with some fabulous people and having some amazing conversation. I'm Jody Peebles, and I'll pass it off to Courtney.
And I am Courtney, the other half of Jody and Court. So Jody and I, we should probably do this since we realized that we didn't really introduce ourselves on the first episode of our video podcasting experiment that we're doing. So Jody and Court, we are two teachers who have come together to change the world, essentially. And we're doing that completely by failing forward and trying on a whole bunch of things between videos to courses and everything. We're just doing it all. But our passion really is to leave an impact in the world that is positive and uplifting and empowering to women, ultimately everybody, but our focus right now is centered on women in the world and youth in the world. Being that we're both teachers, youth is really a passion, and we both are women. Kind of comes naturally. But yeah, that's a little bit of who we are. And so we're just having some fun with being at home and trying on new things to make an impact in the world and leave a positive mark. We're doing this little video podcast thing. So this is, like Jody said, episode 2. And we decided to take a little bit of a fun route today by just kind of inviting a few amazing women onto the podcast with us. We're going to just throw out some really cool quality questions that, being that we're in, actually I wrote this quote down, never let a good crisis go to waste, is something that Winston Churchill said. And that's kind of what we want to do with this. The world is naturally sort of slowing down, and we have one of the blessings of this really kind of chaotic time and sort of time of lots of unknowns is that we have a lot of time to think. And a lot of us are doing a lot of thinking. So why not throw out some really cool questions to really think about? And to help us do that today, we've got 2 amazing women. So Sam Dunbar and Charlotte Vandriesten. We know both of these women in a number of different capacities, and we're really excited to have them on our video podcast because these ladies are incredibly big thinkers. They really they're great examples of stepping outside of their comfort zones, making massive leaps in their lives in the name of following their dreams. They've got really neat ideas. They come from really cool backgrounds. So we're excited to hear some of their inputs in these questions that we're going to just throw out there for people to think about and ponder. So I'm going to let them actually introduce themselves because they're going to do a better job than me fumbling through an introduction that I haven't written down. So why don't we start with you, Sam? If you can just give us a quick introduction of who you are, what you love, whatever.
Sure. So I'm Sam. I love the outdoors and I love people. I think that kind of sums me up in a nutshell. Right now I work as a nurse in home care in Edmonton. So that's been definitely an adventure this last little while. And yeah, I think all of these ladies have been quite instrumental in helping me make changes and to kind of step out of my comfort zone and follow my dreams, as cliche as that sounds. But there's been some really fun, tangible things too, like going to Antarctica. And I think that these ladies have had something to do with that for sure. So thanks.
Go for it, Char.
Right on. My name's Charlotte Vandriesten, and I am Courtney's not so little sister because I'm much taller than she is. And I like to think of myself as a brave thinker, trying to think as much as I can out of the box. I know both Jody and Court in a few different capacities in my own life, and I am the person I am today because of their influences.
That's awesome.
Yay! I am so excited. For those of for everybody watching, you guys don't know, but Char was my student and I was her teacher in high school. And this is like a teacher's dream. This is like exactly what you want to happen later in life, is that you want your students to become your peers in life and learning even. And mentors. I learn from Char, she learns from me, and that's exactly what you want as a teacher. So it's super exciting for me to have have Shar be a part of Jody and Court.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
Oh.
So the point of episode 2, we're just going to pose some really fantastic questions that we're sourcing from a really amazing book and leader. I think Courtney and I both kind of pull and source from Tim Ferriss here and there. And so he has a book called Tribe of Mentors, where he asked all these really influential people across the globe these questions. And so we're going to pull some of the questions he asks. He asked them on his podcast as well. So we thought, well, if they're good enough for Tim, they're good enough for us. So we're just going to start with a question and go from there.
Hey, I'm just going to say this because I might forget at the end.
Of course.
Definitely, as you're watching this podcast, put your answers to the questions in the comments below so we can kind of create a cool conversation about it and share our resources and ideas.
Good thought, Court. Definitely. All right. So everybody start thinking. Here's your first question.
Ready.
What is the book or books that you have given the most as a gift and why? Or if giving books isn't your thing, then what are 1 to 3 books that have greatly influenced your life? Or you could answer both of those questions, really. Who wants to go first? I can go. Crickets. I'm going to go. Okay. The book I've given as a gift the most is The Alchemist. I love that book. It was a book that I read as a young teacher that just really forced me to think of the world in a much bigger way, and in a more heart-centered, intuitive way. I found it to be very thought-provoking, and it really caused me to dream, I felt. And so I've actually given that gift as a gift to some of my grade 12 students when they've graduated, certain students that I just felt needed that direction in their life. And yeah, it's a fantastic book. I don't know. Have you guys read The Alchemist?
I haven't, no.
Oh my gosh. I actually have 2 copies. I made my dad read it.
Thanks.
Writing it down.
Yeah,
I know, I wrote it down too.
Very, very, very good book.
Cool. Well, I can go next. There's one book in particular in more recent years that I've absolutely loved. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's kind of more of a nonfiction book, and it's all about how healing from trauma might require more than, say, talk therapy or medication. And it's talking about how those memories and how different emotions ultimately can be kind of held in the body. And so some of those things to heal yourself are in the body too. So it might be something like group singing is a really big thing, moving your body in a mindful way, whatever sports you're doing. And so I just really love that book because it's a different way of looking at healing. So I
love that.
Yeah.
We'll have to make sure we put a link to all the books or anything that we talk about. We'll put a link to that in the comments and in the show notes.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to say that.
I know, right?
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Show notes.
Awesome. I love the sound of that book. What was it called again, Sam?
The Body Keeps the Score.
Body Keeps the Score. I like that title too.
Yeah.
I'll go next. Mine's easy. I give this book as a gift to pretty much every client that I have. It's You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. I love the book. So I do have I have a life coaching certification. So I've worked with people on sort of my area is mindfulness and building dreams and making dreams kind of come to life in your own life. And she just has this amazing way of just saying it in a blunt kind of badass way to just take control of your life. I give such amazing advice of how to do it. And she was a non-believer in self-help books and ended up writing one of these best-selling self-help books. So I just love that she's gone from one over here to the total polar opposite and has amazing advice and says it's such an easy read too and very entertaining. But yeah, super great book if you're looking for one that is definitely along the lines of taking control of your life again and really figuring out what your dreams are, following what they are, stepping outside of the box to achieve those dreams, that kind of stuff. Super amazing.
Very cool.
Right on. Oddly enough, you've never gifted me that book, but that's okay.
Oh crap.
Oh dear.
And so for Christmas this year.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am not near as big of a reader as you think I am. I do indulge in a good book every once in a while, but it's not something in my life that sort of has a large priority. There is one book in particular that sticks out to me, and that's by Rachel Hollis, and it's called Girl Wash Your Face.
Yes.
I
And
love that book.
yeah, that book, whether you are like, I wish it wasn't Girl Wash Your Face, because I feel like it applies to any gender that you identify as. It's really just about that, like, you don't have to let yourself down. You have the choice. It's all about your choice and choosing in every moment of every day of your life to move forward and to move closer to your dreams, and just pure empowerment for anybody. I haven't really gifted it to anybody, but anybody that I talk to, I'm like, you have to read this book. You have to read this book. So that would be my sort of recommendation is, yeah, Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis.
I listened to the audiobook of that
So
one,
nice.
and she reads it herself, and it's awesome. So if you're an Audible type of person, I highly recommend that one as an audiobook, because I always find it really cool to have an author read their own book, because they read it the way that they wanted it to sound, right? And so it's really good. She's got a really really good ability to convey exactly what she was intending.
Yeah, she's really entertaining and engaging.
Yeah.
I remember, like, I would listen to it when I was running in the mornings, and I don't know how many times. It's a good thing I was usually the only one out there, because I don't know how many times she would say something, I'd be like, yes, in the middle of my run. Like I'm like I'm talking to somebody, like I'm talking to her while I'm running. Yeah, so good. I love that one. Yeah.
I thought of one more,
Nice.
which is because I typically stray to the side of, like, I love reading books that make me learn, but Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan something. I'll find the real name and put it in the show notes. But Way of the Peaceful Warrior is it's a fiction book, but a really, really cool read, and it's one that gets you thinking as well. I'll throw that in there as my fiction option. It's definitely a book that's had major influence in my life, but more on the storytelling side. It's not a self-help book or anything like that, which is what I usually read. Yeah.
Very cool. I know. I could probably like post a list of like 40 books that I would recommend to people. So we won't go into that list.
Yeah. And for the sake of time, question 2.
Question 2. This is probably my favorite question, and it's really aligned with the work Courtney and I have been doing in terms of the workshops we've put on for women and girls and the course that we're creating. And the question is, how has failure or perceived failure set you up for later success? And do you have a favorite failure? It's a juicy question. I like this question. Anybody want to take it?
It's a juicy question, so I'm going to take it first.
Yes.
Because I had a really cool example that sort of came to mind. And this is just from my own personal life. It was from my husband, actually, and it was about just applying for new jobs. And you think on a daily basis, or even in your lifetime, of how many jobs you find and you really want and you apply for and you don't get. And just a reminder of that, like, you will get to where you need to be, right? Like, you are being cared for by the universe, and you will get to where you need to be. Like, my husband had applied for probably 30 jobs in his new field after getting a better education, and every time it would come back, no, and you beat yourself down because it's all these just thanks for applying emails that you get back. And as time would have it, the job that he applied for, actually here that he has right now, he applied for 3 different times. And when we look back at the 2 different times that he applied when he didn't get in, we realized just how much we had learned in that year of him getting all of these rejections. And it really has put us in the perfect place at the perfect time. So just having that like trust, it was tough in the moment. It's that failure. She's good at getting you down, but it was the right thing. It put us where we need to be right now.
I love that. I have two that are really recent. I have a hard time when I was thinking about this question. I have a really hard time actually remembering failure in my life.
Yeah, me too.
Like a really hard time. Part of that is because I grew up with a real hardcore perfectionist mentality where I would put myself into situations where I knew I'd be successful because I didn't want to fail. So in terms of when I was younger, I don't have a lot of failure stories because I didn't push myself hard enough outside of my box to actually fail. But now that I'm like on this other journey where I'm doing things I never thought I would do, there's all kinds of failure that comes my way. And the two that I'm thinking of actually have to do with Jody and Court and things that we've pursued over the last little while. So one was we applied to have a TEDx talk and we put in an application for that. And we were so excited. Like, you guys have no idea how many hours we poured into our application, and we like knew exactly what we were going to do. And we brainstormed it with my husband because he's just really great at like being a sounding board and bouncing ideas off with us. And we like, how many hours did we spend, Courtney? Like 30,
oh my gosh,
plus hours, like constructing and like perfecting this application.
Yeah.
And it totally got denied. Like, we didn't even make the first cut, never mind like the second or third cut. And it was like this reminder of like, okay, we're just not there yet. And that's okay. It's going to happen later. It's just not our time. And that the universe was just kind of gently putting us back on path, because in order to apply for the TEDx talk, we had to put some of our other work on the back burner for a while. We've been working really hard for a year and a half on an online course, and we had to put that on the side burner for a while. And it just kind of like steered us back to, no, you're supposed to focus on this. This is where you're going to make your impact. And then just recently, same thing, we tried to get enough interest to do another one of our Taking Back Your Story workshops. And we just didn't get enough participants to run it. And it's just like these gentle reminders from the universe of like, get back on course. Like, you're supposed to focus on your course. Like, you can do this. Like that stuff is there for later. And so for a recent failure, those are my favorite ones because they just are reminders of what we're supposed to be paying attention to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sam, did you have one that comes to mind?
Oh, I have a number that come to mind. Kind of the heavy hitter in my life that I'm like, oh no, I'm still adjusting from this. Was actually my divorce, and so I think that would be very much a perceived failure that had a lot of big implications. But now I really see how it's given me an opportunity to relate to people differently and to kind of write my own story and to do relationships in a more healthy way. And that's been really, really important to me this last while. So that's been a huge learning point for me.
That's cool. I'm just because you and I have talked a lot deeper on that topic together.
Indeed.
What would you say for people who might be going through that experience right now? Like, take yourself back 5 years. When because you're sort of on the other side. You've kind of crested and you have made the adjustments in your life, and now you're living this new life. But when you were in that, oh crap, this is really real, and this is my current reality. Like, what were things that got you through what felt like a massive failure, and kind of helped you to perceive it as a stepping stone into the next phase of life?
I think that there was a lot of work that went into just even that shift in perception. So initially, like didn't happen overnight. I almost want to say like the first like year and a half-ish, 2 years even, from when I recognized like, oh, this isn't going to work, to that time period. It was just a lot of hard work and a lot of like, no, I'll be fine. Other people have done this before. It'll be fine. Even though it felt terrible at the time, it wasn't an easy process, but just kind of the little things and leaning on other people. And I found the more I was vulnerable with other people, safe people, the more support I got, and the more, I don't know, the more confident I eventually became in thinking that, oh, I'll be okay. It's just going to take some time. And that was kind of a mantra, or like an underlying feeling and message that I got from different people. And that was really, really helpful. But yeah, I think that's what I would say to that. Yeah.
If I can add to that, it's interesting how failures open up opportunities as well, because I'll never forget it was shortly after, I think it was even in the process of getting the divorce, Sam called me up. We went to high school together, but hadn't talked for a long time. And we ended up setting up we went for a very, very, very long walk. And that was the very first time that we'd spent with each other. And what ended up developing into just a really beautiful friendship that I don't think would have ever come had you not been going through that failure, right? So it's, like, it sounds really weird, but I'm really grateful for your divorce. But you know what I mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
My failure, oh man, I'm like, I have one that's like an epic one, but I think I'm gonna leave that just because it's a little bit more dramatic and go way back into my childhood. But before I go there, I feel like, gosh, this past year, I have not experienced more failure in my life than this past year. And it's been kind of interesting and like a test of my faith in the process of giving up me being in charge of the how and just being like, all right, I guess that wasn't it. I'll try another thing, like, and just kind of keeping on going, because holy smokes, I can't even count on my two hands anymore, like big failures, like what feels like big failures, which I know I'll look back and be like, that wasn't that bad. But it feels like I just can't get a yes lately. And it's just a lot of no's, but I'm like, okay, this is good. That means a yes is coming. But that's sort of like, it feels like that's my life right now. So I love this question. I was doing this neat meditation the other morning around the topic of being enough, or on the flip side, feeling like you're not enough, and exploring that. And it got me to kind of go back into thinking about times in my childhood and stuff like that, about when I didn't feel enough. And I realized that was a lot. And I think that's probably pretty normal for most people, because we just have a lot of pressures to be a certain way, and that's where we typically get our praise from, which gives us a feeling of worthiness and stuff like that. And I'll never forget this one failure, and it was literally a fail, like as in an F on a quiz. I was in grade 5. I was a really good student, guys. I'm an A-type personality kind of girl right here, total perfectionist, and I was a really good student. And it was a science quiz, grade 5, Mrs. Linderman's class, and I got 49%. And I freaked out, and I was so scared to take it home and show my mom, because I thought I'd for sure be grounded for the rest of my life. And I showed it to because back in that day, you had to get a signature from your parents, right, on your quizzes, and take it back to the teacher, so that the teacher knew that they saw the test. And so I'm like sheepishly passing my mom my quiz, and like ready, I'm like ready for like a bomb to explode. And she's like, you know what, honey, that's okay. I know that you did your best on this. And I was like, what? And it was a real validation. I'm realizing this in this meditation that I was doing. It was such a validation of this like feeling of, I don't have to be perfect to be enough. That was one of the pinnacle moments in my life, which I'm realizing now taught me that lesson. And I'm so grateful for it. So grateful for that. And so there's my failure story. I'll stop there.
I love it. We probably have all kinds of stories that we can share of, and like Courtney and I talk all the time about looking back and the dots that you can connect, right? That in the moment, you don't know why things are happening the way they're happening, but you know, a year from now, you'll be able to look back and go, oh, that happened. And then that led to this. And then that connects to this dot. And you can connect the dots and see why things happened and what it led to. And I think part of accepting failure as part of the journey is having faith that it's actually just a natural part of the process and it's taking you where you're supposed to end up. And that if you're not failing, for me, this was huge, is that if you're not failing, then you're not pushing yourself hard enough outside of your comfort zone. You're not trying new things enough if you're not failing, right? So I think failure is fantastic. Failure is a great thing. Do we want to tackle one more question?
Yeah, let's do one more and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, cool. Let's do one. This is a kind of a fun one. And maybe a bit shorter of a question in terms of the answers that we'll have. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say and why?
I love this question, but I don't actually have an answer yet.
That's too funny, Courtney, because I like was trying to think of my answer and I was like, oh, I know exactly what Courtney's is going to say.
Oh, that's so funny. You should tell us what you think Courtney's would be.
Yeah.
Courtney's would be by, I think this is Henry Ford. If you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yes, that's like her little quote at the end of her emails, right? Yeah. Your signature at the end of your emails.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, what's yours though, Shar? Or do you have one?
Mine would be like something along the lines of this failure again, that like failure is just feedback, because it's so important to realize that it's just feedback. It's just the universe's way of telling you that, oh, you're not supposed to be here right now. You have to be 6 degrees to the right from that, or right? Like it's just that reminder that you're still going in the right direction. It's just that you're being taken care of by the universe.
I have one. I've got mine. I didn't 2 seconds ago, but now I do. At first I was like, I hate billboards. I don't want to have a billboard. I don't want to have a billboard anywhere. I take them all down. They are ugly to look at. It's just like a reminder of the capitalist, consumerist, world we live in. But if I had to have a billboard, it would say, choose your hard. Like that's like my go-to guiding, quote, mantra, whatever you want to call it. Whenever I'm making a decision, it's like, okay, I need to choose my hard, right? So in the like fitness world, it's hard to be unhealthy. That's hard. It's hard to be unhealthy. Life is not easy being unhealthy, right? When it's hard to go upstairs and things like that. But it's also hard to make healthy decisions and change the course of your kind of lifestyle. That every decision you make, there's just 2 hards. You just have to choose the hard that you want to do that's going to give you the results that you want.
I love that one too.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Okay, I thought of one. Which is really funny in the time of COVID-19. Here's what my billboard would say: give someone a hug. I feel like
all the introverts in the world would be like, no, don't.
Oh my God.
Don't do it.
I get this from being a teacher, and how often a problem is solved with no words with students. I just say, do you want a hug? And like, I'd say 7 times out of 10, the kid is like, yeah. And I just give them a hug. And then I'm like, do you feel better? And they're like, yeah. Do you want to talk about it? No, I'm good. And that's it. It's like done. I'll never forget. So I was in Vancouver at a conference. While I was in university, I got this really cool scholarship, and part of the scholarship was getting to go to this leadership conference in Vancouver for a weekend. And one of the afternoon activities was to go out onto the streets, that like downtown streets of Vancouver, and just give out as many free hugs as you possibly can. And it was so amazing to see people go from like gray, if you were to put a color around a person, just from gray to like yellow, and then another gray person, and just in terms of like neutral. It's just like, you know, people, we get stuck in our our GPS is set and we're going here to there, and then all of a sudden you like pop their gray bubble and you give them a hug, and then they're like rainbow, and they're alive, and their eyes come to life, and they're smiling, and they want to talk to you, and it's so cool. Give someone a hug. That's my billboard.
I love it.
Nice. I think my billboard would be similar in the sense, just what came to mind was breathe, you'll be okay.
Oh, I love that.
And that's what I would want to put on a billboard right now.
I love that, like, just breathe, just be, like all those little mantras that just remind you to be present in the moment and just slow down, which is what we're doing.
Yes.
Perfect for right now, Sam.
Mine's not so perfect for right now. Let's do Sam's first for a little while, and then, like, you know, when it comes time 2 years down the road, well, let's just say 3 months down the road. Fingers crossed. No.
Yeah.
But we need to switch the billboard. But Sam, yours is going up first.
Awesome. Well, that was great. I love this. We need to do this more often. There are so many questions we could ask. If you are watching us and you would like to be a part of this kind of a video podcast conversation, let us know, and maybe you can be a part of the next one.
Or ask some questions. And we can take questions and put them into the next one.
Absolutely. Any final words, ladies?
Oh, big shout out. Thank you, Jody and Court, for having us on. It was a pleasure being a guest today.
Thank you so much, Shar.
Yes, thank you. It's been fun.
Awesome. We're super excited. That was episode 2, and we had guests. So win for us. Super exciting. All right. Well, signing off until episode 3, I suppose. Court, do you want to say anything?
Give someone a hug, guys.
Give someone air hugs for now.
Air hugs.
What do you do like this? This is what Nancy Campbell, lady that we work with, that's what they do on Skype right now, because that's how they see their grandbabies. So this is like giving hugs. So we can just walk around doing this to people at 6 feet distance away.
Yeah, there you go, right? Actually, you know what? Let's just leave it off with this. Make someone smile today. Yeah. I think that no matter how far apart we are, we can still make a person smile, and that brings us into connection with another person. It doesn't have to be, you know what, we don't have to be together to be together. So make someone smile today.
Absolutely. Hopefully we brought some smiles with our conversation today. Until next time. See you.
See you later.